Great. So a warm welcome to Sovereignty and Interoperable Digital Identity in DLDC's workshop here in the UN IGF in Lillestrøm, Norway. I am Gail Hodges, the Executive Director of the OpenID Foundation, a global open standards body that serves billions of users and millions of developers with identity standards. I'm also the co-organizer of City Hub, one of the co-hosts of the workshops today. It's a personal delight to be here representing the OpenID Foundation, City Hub, and working in partnership with Alficta. It's quite serendipity that the IGF MAG has brought us together for this joint session. Just a few months before we started convening, we found that we have quite a lot in common with our Alficta partners, and it's a real pleasure to co-present with them today. I'm joined here by a very impressive group of speakers, including Deborah Komperin, Technical Director of the Secure Identity Alliance and co-founder of the City Hub, Nihiro Fujisan, Chair of the OpenID Foundation of Japan, Tor Alvik, the Subject Director and in the Agency for Public Management and E-Government for Norway, as well as on my other side, Dr. Jimson Ulafoye, the CEO of Contemporary Consulting, founder, foundation chair, and chair of the Advisory Council of Alficta, Dr. Kosi Amasinu, Private Sector Monitoring and Support, Ministry of the Economy and Finances in Benin, Director General and CEO of the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, Nigeria, Abisoy Coker Adesote. I will also have joining me a moderator for our online participants, Stephanie de la Briole, Executive Director of the Secure Technology Alliance, and our rapporteur online is Kayode Oyeyemi, Alficta Senior Program Manager. I will invite all of our speakers to introduce themselves before they make their first comments. We have 3 objectives for our workshop session today. Our first is to surface different viewpoints on sovereignty and interoperable digital identity and DLDCs, why it's important, where we are seeing successes today, and how to bring that success to all countries. We will also explore how policymakers can leverage examples and shared experiences of successful interoperable digital identity implementations and to inform and support of identity interoperability in Africa, ultimately enhancing economic activity and promoting regional integration. We also will get into what practical steps we can take as a community during our intersessional work before the next IGF. And we will look at how the tools of City Hub, the Sustainable and Interoperable Digital Identity Project, how those tools can help in the context of the African Free Trade Area proposal, and ensuring that those tools are safeguarding national sovereignty. We welcome audience participation in our workshop, and please do have your mobile phones to hand because shortly we will bring up a QR code for you to participate in our first question. Actually, with that, may I ask our technicians to please bring up the slide. You're invited to scan the QR code and answer our first question. And all of these answers are wholly anonymous, which is our first question, and you can free-form type in your response. Why is sovereignty and interoperable digital identity important to you? What brought you into this session today? I can see those in the room already picking up their phones and scanning the QR code. So as soon as we see those first answers coming in, we should see them pop up on the screen from both our online participants and those that are joining us in the room. We will use the same Mentimeter tool later on in the session, so this is a good way to make sure we've got it starting to work in advance. There you go. I see the first answers coming through on national security. Identity, fundamental right, just give it another moment, and then we'll transition into our first set of speakers. Protection of critical and classified data, recognizing individuals in the digital world, protection, a lot of common themes, a lot of shared interests here. Personal digital sovereignty, Okay, so we'll let people can continue to answer the survey questions as they're typing them in, and we'll take note of these responses as part of our rapporteur and our summary. So I think we can transition back to the holding slide, and I'll introduce our first speaker. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Dr. Jimson, the CEO of Contemporary Consulting, founder and foundation chair to the Advisory Council of Alficta. Dr. Jimson, can you kindly introduce yourself and elaborate on what Alficta does and its roles in WSIS, the IGF, the Enhanced Corporation, and the Global Digital Compact?
Thank you, Gail. Good morning, everyone, both on site and online. It's a pleasure to have you all here. My name again is Jimson Olufuye. I have the privilege of being the CEO of Contemporary Consulting, an ICT firm based in Abuja, Nigeria, to data centers, security, integration, and research. I'm also the chair of the Advisory Council of the Africa ICT Alliance, AFICTA. AFICTA is a concerned private sector-led ICT alliance of ICT associations, companies, and individual professional stakeholders across Africa. We started off in 2012 with 6 countries in Africa, and today we're in 43 African countries. Our vision is to fulfill the promise of the digital age for everyone in Africa. As a matter of fact, AFICTA is one of the outcomes of the WSIS. We fully engaged with our governments across Africa, engaged with UNECA, with AU, that's African Union, and we also engaged at the CSTD, that is Commission for Science and Technology for Development, that oversees WSIS. So WSIS is about people-centered information society, wherein everyone will benefit from the great infrastructure we have in ICT. And we know that today ICT rule everything, internet basically. And so we are fully committed to ensuring that Africa takes its rightful place in terms of sovereignty, in terms of protection of its assets. Asset in terms of identity. And this lines up where WSIS Action Line 8, talking about cultural identity, other WSIS action lines about cybersecurity, about cooperation, collaboration, and about common purpose for development, especially the sustainable development goal. As we know, this is IGF, another outcome of the WSIS, and we also know about the Global Digital Compact. The Global Digital Compact is also an outcome of WSIS, because when the Enhanced Cooperation failed in court in January 2018, by July, the Secretary General launched the high-level panel on digital interdependence, a digital cooperation led by Belinda Gates and Jack Ma. And that led eventually to the Summit of the Future last year. And that's September 22nd. The world leaders, they met together and agreed to the Summit of the Future, the Pacts for the Future, which has GDC, Global Data Compass, one of the outcomes. And it has 5 objectives. The first objective is about closing the digital divide. And we know identity is critical to closing the digital divide, because if you cannot identify anybody, it means the person does not really exist. And we're talking about inclusivity. We're talking about multi-stakeholder. We're talking about nobody being left behind. So objective 1 talks about bridging all the digital divide so that we can achieve the sustainable development goal. And of course, objective 2 is also there about ensuring everybody benefits from the digital economy. Also human rights, objective number 3. Objective number 4, talking about data governance, interoperable data governance, and also AI. The area of AI, data is king. So our data matters a lot, and identity matters a lot. So we are really proud to be associated with CD and the Alliance collaboration, And we are grateful to Mark that brought us together. I trust it's going to be an enriching relationship. And also, we can see we have in this panel the government of Benin, represented by Dr. Kofi, and government of Nigeria in terms of digital identity, represented by General Dr. Abisoye Koka. So this is kind of collaboration AFICTA does, and we are proud of it, and we want to continue to enrich it going forward. Now, when we talk about sovereignty, it's about laws, appropriate laws that guide data of your citizens, protection of your data. This is very important. As someone that is in the data ecosystem, in fact, in Nigeria, we are one of the data controllers, so we know the import of data, the need to protect it. And so we believe strongly that sovereignty matters a lot. We need to ensure that our people trust us, that is, trust the leadership, the government, and also they can have liberty to conduct businesses, enjoy government services in terms of health, in terms of commerce, in terms of travels, immigration, identity generally. And so we are fully invested, that is AFICTA and our members, AFICTA in collaborating with all our government agencies across Africa so that we can all fulfill the vision of WISIS, the expectation of GDC, and the hope for every African. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jimson. Just to kind of quote you back, to say that identity is critical to closing the digital divide is clearly a key theme for what brings us together today, in which I think has brought many of our audience members to this particular conversation. We certainly don't wish to see anyone be left behind. So thank you very much for those comments. I'll turn now to Dr. Kosi Amesenu from Benin. Dr. Kosi, please do introduce yourself as well, and please elaborate on what you see from Benin's perspective on best practices in policy and the direction you hope to see emerge in Benin and across Africa.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you. I'm Kosi Amesinu. I come from Benin. I'm from Ministry of Economy and Finance in Benin. I was director of SCT in Benin Development Ministry before. I attend the Ministry of Economy. Today, I'm working to support and monitor private sector process in Ministry of Economy in Benin. We are talking about identity today. When we are talking about identity, interoperability of digital identity is a challenge for us. This challenge are shared by all the community ecosystem today around the world. Biometric document, for example, particularly digital identity, can cover the win-to-range benefit to countries such as good governance, balancing spatial planification, financing inclusion to provide to people, women empowerment. We can take care of this very well. Better social protection can be done when we take care of identity very well. We provide in Benin one platform called East Road when we put our interoperability process inside. In this platform, we have one key called FID for each people in Benin. With that key, you can have two cards. You have one card called It's Me. Every people can have it for free. We can have also biometric card provided with ECOWAS to do all things of activities and also travel anywhere in ECOWAS space, do your business without visa process. When we talk about digital, we know that it's important to talk also about the challenge of security. Security, because identity have impact to our global digital economy and environment locally. It's important for us that digital identification can reflect the legal identity of people. If we don't have legal identity of people, it will be very difficult for us to know who is outside the information we have online. In Benin, World Bank helped us with project one called Wuri Project. Wuri Project come and consolidate the achievement of the process started by government alone, providing secure personal identification for each person in Benin. With Wuri Project today, government facilitates e-commerce, work on securing digital ecosystem. Anywhere in Benin today, people can have one space where we can receive their card. We also decide any African can enter Benin without visa today. For that, we need to have persons who are coming for us receive some ID when we enter the country. When we enter, we can identify you by your visa process for free. Visa is for free. You can enter you. We can identify you from that. But also, this carte c'est moi received by people can help them to pay SIM card, can help them to go to hospital and identify the same and have all the service inside. This carte c'est moi, my colleague use it, for example, to go to Ghana. This carte c'est moi. You can check it, you can control the QR code on it and know all your identification. We are looking for this kind of process for all Africa. If it's possible for African Union, for example, to work to let all the African people have their ID across Africa before the end of 2026, for example, we will have possibility for each African to enter Benin without visa process. This will be something very good, and we are looking for that. That is also the African we want. It's important for us today to work on the challenge of security, this identification call. This challenge, we put on in the process now in Benin, one agency will work on digital space monitoring. Every day we monitor digital space to see what level of security challenge you have today. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Kosi. Just to kind of play back a little bit of what I heard there at the end, the C'est Moi card really bringing to life, for individuals within Benin, how to access their SIM card, how to access their healthcare services, how to allow that movement of people across jurisdictions like in Ghana, and that serving as a model for what could happen more broadly within Africa. And obviously then, by extension, the rest of the world, part of our conversation between Afecta and City Hub. Really important for that financial inclusion, and also bringing to life the importance of that foundational civil registry capability that countries have to empower their residents and empower the movement of people. So thank you for those thoughtful comments. I'd now like to move on to Director General Abisoy Udosote from the Nigerian government and the lead for NIMC. May I ask you, DG Abisoy, to kindly introduce yourself and your role with NIMC, and to elaborate on what Nigeria is doing on digital identity, on both identity, civil registry, digital identity, your work within Africa, and your thoughts about global interoperability of digital identity.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Engineer Abisoy Koka-Odishote, the Director General of the National Identity Management Commission. Thank you, Gil, for your questions. Just to quickly give you a summary update on what Nigeria has been able to achieve so far, the NIMC can shed more light on the tangible progress which has been made in establishing foundational identity, which not only supports national development, but is increasingly interoperable across the sectors and borders. So the system that we have designed powers key priorities around social protection, tax reform, financial inclusion, and digital public services. We have successfully integrated the national identity number with the bank verification number, which means that every single person that is classified as banked in the population has an account number tied to their NIN. We've also been able to achieve the same with the SIM-NIN linkage. We've also been able to achieve that linkage with the National Population Commission, which means that at birth, every citizen is now able to get issued a NIN from birth. Initially, it used to be from the age of 16, but now it's from birth. So we were able to do that collaboration successfully with UNICEF and the National Population Commission. What we are also doing at the moment is the first of its kind in Nigeria, which is the biometric-enabled census. So where we sort of ensure that we don't have duplicates in terms of collecting information. They can rely on the NIN to be able to verify the identity of voters or the voting population in Nigeria. We've also been able to ensure that the children that are enrolling in the school can definitely get their school feeding through biometric authentication via the NIN. So there are a lot of government programs we're working on. One is the Credit Cup, which means providing credit access to Nigerians and ensuring that they are biometrically verified via the NIN. We've also done another partnership with SMEDAN, which deals with the small medium enterprises in Nigeria, where we're able to ensure that MSMEs who have been granted loans or given grants are able to verify their identity through the NIN. For the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, which is the examination that you have to sit to be able to go into a higher institution for to pursue your further education, your NIN is required at that instance. So we have a lot of use cases across different ministries, departments, and agencies where your NIN is required for you to be able to do what you need to do, to be able to access any loans, or to be able to further your education, or to be able to pay your taxes, and the list is endless. Also, we have partnered with the NEL Fund, which gives student loans to youths that want to be in higher education also. So first of its kind in Nigeria, student loan service. So we're very proud of Mr. President for able to bring this vision to life. And you need your NIN so that we can avoid duplication of identity, prevent identity fraud. And I mean, that's what the beauty of the NIN does. So it's not just a number that just sits there, but it's a number that enables you to access different services across government and also the private sector. So regarding the private sector, we also have health insurance, we have banks, we have telcos, we have fintechs, we have manufacturing companies, we have so many use cases around the use of the NIN. Another thing that we've been able to do successfully is to ensure continued integration and harmonization of all the sectoral IDs across the ministries, departments, and agencies. One thing that Nigeria is very lucky about is that the government has the political will. So we have a president who understands the importance of identity. And so that gives us, it puts us at an advantage of getting all of these things done. Regarding cross-border interoperability, I want to speak on something. So we had the first West African Economic Summit, which was held a week ago. The focus of that summit was about digital trade across the West African region. And we had quite a few of the presidents from ECOWAS turn up for the event. And one thing was key, that you definitely need digital identity, which is a catalyst for driving digital trade. Because with the discussions around the free movement of people across borders, free movement of people and goods and services across borders, and it's extremely important for us to note how major digital identity is in advancing the cause of digital trade. And we had a lot of conversations, and something stood out to me. It was very obvious that we need to meet each country state at their level of readiness. So there are countries that do not have the simple digital infrastructure. There is no data connectivity, and they have no energy or very little energy. There's very little or no digital literacy awareness created. So the list is endless, and for us to be able to then obviously then identify what the barriers are in each of these countries, and then we're able to address the real issues. If you look at the institutional frameworks that we have, and if you're also looking at the legal frameworks, data protection, for example, in Nigeria, our act went live in 2023, May of 2023. However, it does restrict cross-border interoperability. So which means within your state, your country state, you're able to carry out, your transactions. But then when it comes to cross-border, there's nothing that points to that there. So I believe that we need to sort of have like a regional agreement based on data sovereignty and, and trust that would sort of allow, data protection acts across each region, allow the modification of their acts to be able to reflect cross-border interoperability. I think it's very, very, very key, because everyone's obviously worried about data, protecting, the citizens' data, and also ensuring safety of their data. And there are also issues around cybersecurity threat. So I'm sure that I think this happened like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, where we all witnessed 16 billion passwords data breach globally. I mean, we had people like Apple, Google all affected. So I think that's a real concern for everyone. It's a huge problem. So we need to ensure that we reflect on this. But at the same time, we've got AFTA working. We've also got the African Union digital interoperability framework that they've put together. So that needs to be adopted. I believe that also regarding cross-border interoperability, you must incorporate digital identity in payment design. It's extremely important. And Nigeria has been able to achieve that of recent. We have the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System called NIBS, where they have just successfully launched the National Payment Stack, which is part of the digital public infrastructure approach that we have in Nigeria. And so that's been integrated into our national identity management system. And that's that allows for cross-border interoperability. We also have the fintechs have developed some applications too that also allows cross-border interoperability. So we need to definitely focus on the digital identity part of things and meet states at the point of readiness for them. I also personally feel that with states that have already made a lot of progress, like Nigeria, we can definitely have a peering mechanism where we run out a pilot for, a test pilot for the digital identity cross-border interoperability, where we pick 2 member states and then say, okay, let's run out this pilot. So we may do Uganda and Kenya, or we may do, Nigeria and Cameroon, or Nigeria and Niger, any of the border countries around us. I think that would help a great deal. But trust frameworks are very key for interoperable IDs across borders, ethical standards for cross-border data sharing, safeguarding sovereignty by ensuring ID protocols respect national laws, because we all have different laws. Also, political will is very, very important. I can't stress that enough, because there are governments in Africa that have a lot of setbacks. There's political instability and conflicts in their areas. So there needs to be a lot that needs to be done across board. But if I'm to speak to what I mean regarding, sustainable, interoperable digital identity tools, and after I think that if we leverage the after phase 3 and digital trade protocol, I think it would help us a great deal to be able to integrate digital identity standards into the e-commerce and digital trade protocol. I think I'm going to stop there for now. Thank you.
DG Abasoy, thank you so much for those comments. Just to kind of recap a few key messages that I heard come up is meeting states where they are, recognizing that many jurisdictions have gaps, the importance of the regional agreements that are already emerging, both within ECOWAS as well as broadly across the African Union, the many use cases that Nigeria, for example, has already brought to life for your residents, and the potential, for that to continue to expand within Nigeria, but within those regional structures like ECOWAS, but also more broadly for Africans to benefit, and that pivotal role that digital identity plays in that transition. So thank you for that offer. Maybe we'll hold you to it of reaching out the hand to your border countries and setting up those implementations that bring to life the cross-border experiences for your residents. So wonderful examples and great work happening there. I'd now like to transition to our next panel of speakers on the City Hub side. And I think we have some slides from Deborah Camperen, so we can get those ready for her comments. Deborah, could you kindly introduce yourself and some of the roles that you're playing in progressing digital identity, and elaborate on City Hub, what it's seeking to accomplish, and how it's going about delivering on its goals?
Good morning, everyone. First of all, it's really a pleasure to be here with you all today and speaking about definitely my favorite topic, that is digital identity. It's really a passion of mine. I've been working on this for the past 5 years, and what I can say about myself to introduce me is that I contribute to standardization work. So essentially, it means collaborating with the ecosystem and developing together technical standards, so technical specifications that can help interoperability. But how hard can it be? So we have heard a lot this morning about the benefit and the social impact that digital identity infrastructure has. And when I was thinking to my younger self when 5 years ago, I decided to enter into this space of digital identity completely unknown to me before. And I was wondering, how hard can it be, right? Like to just build such digital identity infrastructure? And the answer is very. So I'm still here, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So let me put that into perspective for a minute before I talk about City Hub. Here, I like to refer back to physical documents. So digital.
Closer to the mic.
Shall I get closer to the mic? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I'm Italian. I like to move a lot, so bear with me. I think that when we are talking about building a digital identity infrastructure, it would be very nice to go back to the physical documents and reflect on the properties of these physical documents that we want to digitalize. And it would be fantastic to maintain some of those properties. So this also is the complexity of the exercise. First of all, when you all arrive here, you probably show some form of document. So the first step is to digitalize this piece of paper or plastic. The second step that we ignore, because we do it every day, is when I prove my identity, I just hand it over to someone. So we need to be able to build these rails to hand this digital version of documents over to someone in the web. Also, there's some form of integrity. So when I show you my passport, well, there's a lot of nice feature in here that you can check and say, well, it has not been tampered with. I cannot just create one at my home. So it should be exactly the same thing for a digital version of this. finally, when I use it, my government doesn't know what I'm doing. It doesn't know when I access here IGF this morning and I gave my passport, my ID card. They cannot track my actions and my whereabouts. And I think this is also a very important property that we should keep in mind and maintain in the digital domain. You can also see that this is my document. So I'm the rightful owner of this document. I can't just pass it over to Gail and she just easily use it. So that's the same thing, that we should, all these properties should be maintained. And it's very hard. So there's a lot of intelligent cryptography definitely behind this to make it happen, and a lot of technical work. We are not there yet. There's also trust that needs to happen. It's not just about technology, it's really about collaboration. Because these documents in the digital form, they have to cross borders. So it's not just valid in my country, it's just to be valid everywhere I go. It should be understood and trusted, etc. And this is exactly why we created City Hub, because we understood the difficulty of doing this, and we absolutely wanted to maintain these properties that I've been through with you, because it is about safeguards as well. So it is about preserving privacy and maintaining the security of citizens and individuals in the digital realm. And we collectively at City Hub, we thought that it is about collaboration. There's not a single organization or individual or bright mind in the world that can do it on their own. And so we pull together an ecosystem of private sector, public sector, so government, research institutes, standard bodies, to collaborate and make this reality, make this vision a reality. This is what City Hub is about, and as you can see, I'm also very proud of this. It's a new initiative we started 1.5 years ago, but a lot of work has been done. And so I will share with you a couple of slides so that you get a sense of what we have achieved together and what still remains to be done. And you're most welcome to join us and to contribute. First of all, I heard about Digia Bissoy when she said, meet countries where they are. That's absolutely right. And this is absolutely the approach of City Hub. We don't have the arrogance of thinking that we're just gonna sit somewhere and define what's gonna happen, how all this digital identity infrastructure should be built, and just go off and share our vision with the world. It's really about hearing people, hearing about what are the difficulties locally in the different countries. And that's what we've done. And so this is why it's very important for City Hub. The very first year, we spent our time traveling extensively, all of us, and hearing about the different perspectives from countries and the difficulties. And so these are what you see here in the slide, some of the summits in different continents that we've done in 18 months. And we've collected all the feedback and the different perspectives and in reports that you can go to the City Hub website and you can download. And I'm not here to, I don't have the time, unfortunately, to get into all the details, but indeed there is confirm a very different level of maturity in different regions, but also different needs, right? So collectively, in all these different summits and in conference participations, we have heard inputs. We have been engaging with over 45 countries. So this is absolutely massive work, and this is what informs the roadmap and the development of City Hub moving forward. I'm going to spend a few minutes to go through some of them, what I think are the most important working groups, so concrete deliverables that we are carrying forward right as we speak right now. All this work is live, it's ongoing. First of all, use cases. So when we talk about such a complex digital identity infrastructure, we need to go back to the user story. So what is this for? And so we have studied different use cases. And because it's important, again, to listen to what is important, we have prioritized. So out of all the discussions, we have selected what for the different countries and the different research institutes and multi-stakeholders engagement that we had was the most relevant. And so this is what you see in the screen, essentially are the top 3 that were selected by the community. So it's education, refugees, and bank account. So basically, we studied how digital identity is relevant in each of these usages. Then policy. Again, it's not just about technology, rails, and digitalization and cryptography and all the tools that you can come up with. It's really down to sovereignty of the country and the local rules and regulations that determine how digital identity should be used. So these countries have different perspectives. And so we have studied a study of different legal, different regulations and policy at country level. So we're studying over 10 countries. And we are compiling all these regulations and deriving from it, how can we achieve interoperability while respecting the local decisions. This is very important. We're not here to impose anything. We're here to listen, to understand, and to build rails, and to make sure that this digital identity gets done while respecting local regulation. And finally, there's my favorite, the technology workstream, and this is really about all the tools that I've mentioned earlier, how to get this done. It's very much technical work. So I will not dig into the details now, but this is what I wanted to share with you today. And most of all, if there's one thing that you can retain by my speech is that you're most welcome to contribute. It's really important that we all work together. This infrastructure is for the benefits of all of us, individually first, as citizens of a country. So I think this is a very important message to take home. So your involvement, whether you are a cryptographer or an engineer or a policymaker or a researcher, it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I think your message is to just explain in clear language the transition from physical documents into digital versions of those documents and the importance of maintaining the properties of what residents and what people expect from their digital identity credentials without sacrificing the trust or giving away more information than they need to, and doing so in a way that can be secure and trusted, and using some fancy cryptography behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, it's around those simple user experiences, like those champion use cases you gave around education, opening a bank account, and managing the experiences for displaced people. That those are really important. But the safeguards that we put around that is going to take a lot of engagement, and your key message to make sure that the community felt welcome to participate in the City Hub work, because it's going to take a very broad community of subject matter experts and those willing to put the time in to solve for making this cross-border interoperability a reality. So thank you so much. I'm now going to turn to Nihiro Fuji-san, the chair of the OpenID Foundation Japan, who's also been very actively involved in hosting the City Hub in Tokyo, and works very closely with the Japanese government on this transition from physical identity credentials to digital identity credentials. So please, Fuji-san, could you elaborate on your role, introduce yourself, and share some of the experience in Japan?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm now Hyo Fuji from the OpenID Foundation Japan as a chair. And also, I'm a working group co-chair of OpenID Foundation Global, and especially focusing on identity verification, which is working groups called eKYC and Identity Assurance. And also, always I support the Japanese government and as well as educational institute in Japan to digitalize their certificates or IDs. So that's my role in Japan. So today I express my opinion from the perspective of digital, how digitalize this identity, digital identity, and have interoperability with in the country as well as international and global. So, as you know, Japan is an island nation, and there's no border with us, any other countries. But we have over 120 million population in Japan. We have own economic sphere in our country. So everyone does not understand what's the importance of interoperability with other countries so far. But I think that the idea of starting from small to achieve big and a huge one is very important in this context of interoperability. So I mean that the most important thing is for each country is to define its own their standards in accordance with their own law or regulations, while keeping the global standards in mind, and then to using standard technology like bridging to other countries using standard technology, and it brings us the global interoperability. So today, I'd like to talk about the situation in Japan in three aspects. First one is education, and the second one is national idea, as Gail mentioned earlier. And the third one is cross-border initiative, including city hub or some kind of that and scenarios. So, as I mentioned earlier, to start from small is quite important for us, especially in Japan, I guess. So we started to define the architecture framework for digital credential with Keio University, one of the biggest university in Japan. So to digitalize their identity or a certificate, why I say it's digitalized, currently, especially educational certificate in Japan is almost all paper-based. So we have to digitalize, but we have to consider about how manage the credential itself in digital manner. So we started to define the management rule of each type of credentials in education world with Keio University. Sorry, this paper is already published on the internet, but it's written in Japanese only. So we are trying to translate into English right now, but so far we provide this in Japanese. For example, we are targeting, we currently have several types of credentials like passport or mobile driver's license or enrollment certificates in paper manner. And also, in several scenarios, we can use a copy of credential to prove or to verify my identity by some relying parties. But in digital way, there's no difference between copy and original. So we have to consider what the copy means in digital manner, and also we have to consider about the deliverable of credential in the digital manner. It isn't exist in the physical world, but in digital world we have to consider about that. So we are classified three types of credential. First one is original, and the second one is duplicate, which means a copy of digital. And the third one is delivered credential, I meant earlier. So we keen to define the management policy aligned to each type of credential is required to manage them. Also, we started to in this scenario is especially for education area. We started to work with National Institute of Informatics, we call NII, which is settled under the Ministry of Education in Japan. It's some educational institute collaborative in the collaboration with many universities right now. And currently, NII operates an academic federation called Gakunin in Japan, and it have interoperability with other countries' university like in the EU or African countries and United States as well. But they are using right now SAMO protocol right now. So we have to move on to the next level of technology, like how to use a wallet, like that. So we have started to define the framework structure of academic credential using a wallet model. This is the second activity in Japan to define local standard first in Japan. And the third one is I'd like to explain about government-led initiative and the POC project in Japan. This is a quite interesting project. Before moving into this, explaining this scenario, I think the most important thing for Japan right now is achieve a situation where the digital credentials are being used domestically. Because as I mentioned, we do not use a digital credential right now because we have only paper-based credential right now. So as Deborah says that it's important to use digital-based credential for students. So the challenge in this project is to utilize national ID card as well as enrollment certificate which university issued to the students and get them to the station, and the students get a discount ticket to ride a train. This is a demonstration use case. The first of it, from your left side, when students consider to plan trip to somewhere, and the students consider to buy a ticket for students. And to buy the ticket from the railways company, the students have to present that they are actually students using a digital credential which university issues to the students, as well as the students have to be verified by the national, like Japan, the government. So after that, the students have to present the national ID card in digital manner. And after that, they can get a discount ticket and go anywhere. It's a quite interesting scenario in Japan because they do not have digital identity right now. So, okay. And it's a good way to give some experience to students to utilize the digital-based credentials. And also, this is quite big news for especially Japanese people. Just yesterday, the Japanese government started to provide a national ID card in the Apple Wallet, because over 60% of Japanese national uses iPhone. So it's a very big progress for digitalize their national IDs. And also, we have some initiative between other countries, like between EU, European Unions. We have the EU-Japan Digital Partnership Council in focusing on how to utilize or how to make interoperable digital identity between two countries or two continents. And also we have other initiative with Asian Pacific regions like Asian countries. So I mentioned about our initiative in Japan, as well as how we consider to proceed to the next step from small step to achieve the big steps. I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fuji-san. I think starting with the joke of an island nation not having direct borders, but in practice for residents of Japan to conduct their business in their daily lives, they're very much living across borders and have cross-border transactions. And it's wonderful to see the leadership role that Japan is taking on the standards as well as on some of those complex interoperability conversations and work with the EU and with other Asian countries, which echoes what we heard earlier from our colleagues here in their African jurisdictions and regions, which are seeking to do the same thing. And that example of something that seems simple, like a discount for a railway ticket for a student, but which actually requires complex digital use cases, transforming national ID credential to a digital format, a university credential to a digital format, and then bringing that to a national railway in order to realize something like that discount. Many of us have been fortunate to be poor students at one point or another, and so we know that that will motivate the students, but bringing it to life is very complex. So thank you for your work in driving innovation and the transformation with the Japanese government and other partners. So I'd now like to ask Tor Alvik, working with the Norwegian government as a subdirector on this digital transformation in a Norwegian context, can you kindly introduce yourself and share some of the work that Norway has been doing with the Baltic states for regional development, as well as your work with Europe and more broadly?
And thank you and good morning. Yes, as you said, my name is Tor Alvik and I work for the Norwegian Digitalization Agency. This is an entity that tries to build common components, bridging both cross-border interoperability, but also for how we deal with providing services to the public and private sector in Norway. So I will try and move to the next slide. We are one of a group of Nordic Baltic countries. We are quite similar in both legislation, in population, and in the way people live. Very similar countries. So when you came to the airport in Norway, maybe yesterday or the day before, if you pay close attention, you will often hear the tourists say, "Oh, it's so nice in Sweden." But it's the wrong country. This is actually Norway. So how can interoperability with digital ID across borders in a region like this be hard? Well, what we've found out is it is very hard. But if you look at some of the figures, you can see that we have a high level of mobility in the region. A lot of people are moving, settling in different countries, working in another country than they live. We have a great mobility of students and our workforce. This, of course, makes it very important to also have digital services that function cross-border. In our region, we have a very well-developed system for digital identity. It covers, for most of the countries, more than 90% of the population on high security level, and almost all services are already digitalized, so you can carry out almost every aspect of your life in a digital way. So then when we started looking on how can we make this work cross-border, this was a work that was started in relation to the cooperation between the different governments in the region. We have a long-standing cooperation between the administrations in the Nordic countries dating back to the 1950s. But if you look at that, it was not until 2017 that we actually broadened that cooperation to also deal with ICT and digital services and cross-border issues. Very early in that work, it was identified that getting digital ID to work interoperably cross-border was one of the main issues that needed to be solved to provide cross-border services to people. What has been important for us in our work is the link between us as technicians and working on the solution and having this close link to the politician side and the decision makers. That has been made it able for us to address central problems and also foster the uptake of this solution cross-border. We established a project, a working project, where we work together with the different agencies in the different countries. We are working together there since 2018, and some of the main focuses in our cooperation is one is making sure that each country actually have EID system that we recognize cross-border. Since we all are members of the EU or closely linked to it, as in Norway's and Ireland case, we build on the ADAS regulation. But just to motivate our politicians and get the understanding that you need to adopt these EID systems so they actually can be recognized, even though we have the legal foundation in place, took time and has been quite challenging. We are also working, and I will come back to that, with some fundamental challenges in how to recognize our citizens cross-border. We build and work with service provision, working with service providers, exploring different user stories and how they function cross-border. We find that many of these services are quite a hindrance to people and need to be addressed at the service level. It is not enough to actually build a digital ID. You have to design the whole user story so that it actually fits a cross-border context. And we also, together with all our other member states in the EU, we also are preparing on the upcoming changes in IDAS, which would because, of course, the digital wallets and the use of credentials and the new models for data sharing. When we have looked at identity in our countries, one of our main observations is that it's not enough to have a functioning digital identity. You need a system where this functions just as well in the physical world as in the digital world. There is a very close link to our core identity, which is in our countries, are of course in our population registers, but can of course be in other systems. The documents that both are the basis for the digital identity, how you use these documents when issuing digital identity, making sure that we don't have duplicates, having a biometric verifications of people immigrating and coming to our country. So, and then you have the issuing process and the use of both digital identity and how. So you need this kind of same level of security both in the physical and digital world. This is not that easy to achieve, and also especially challenging when it comes to cross-border identity. So here's an example from one of my colleagues. Nils Inge is in the audience, so if you want to talk to him afterwards, he can give you much more insight in our cross-border cooperation. But this is what happens if you try and use a digital identity and try and access a service in our different countries. We have built a digital identity layer, so you can come and you can log in and say, hi, how are you? And then it gets a lot more quiet, because then we have to link you to our national identity systems. Like all of us, we have a long life. Some of our rights and services may date back 20, 30 years. For instance, you can have pension rights in another country, which you need to access much later. So this linkage of the identity you are coming with from one country to the identity you have in the country providing the service is one of the main challenges we actually focus. We can get the digital identity to function and understand, but trying to address this is something we're now trying to work on, and I think this is also maybe something that can be taken away from our work to focus on those aspects very early, not just the digital identity. This is simplification of the user journey for doing this kind of identity matching steps. As you can see, it's rather complex, and when you delve into the details, it gets even worse. And then you have all the registrations where you lack data and so on. So this can be quite a challenge. So I'm looking forward to the discussion afterwards and hear your insights on what we have done and what can be taken away from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tor Alvik. It is wonderful to have your personal leadership of the work in Norway, which many in the rest of the world have observed the work in Norway and in the Baltics, to achieve your EID goals and to elaborate the work with EIDAS and the EU Digital Identity Wallet Program, which you're adjacent to, but which your residents are obviously moving across borders with not only your Baltic states, but European partners as well. So thank you for your leadership role in that work and bringing to life those use cases for your residents and other Europeans. I think many learnings for the rest of the world, and I too look forward to the next stage of our discussion here to get some of the feedback from our online participants and those in the audience. So we're going to bring back up the Mentimeter poll where we'll progress to the next slide. If I can get the clicker back. Very good. If you have not already grabbed the QR code to answer the first question, please do take a picture of that QR code so you can participate in the live survey that we're going to conduct. We're going to go through a series of questions, and the first couple are policy related. So I'll put Dr. Jimson and Deborah on guard that they'll speak to the first one while our audience is going to participate in the next conversation. So we wanted to discuss what practical steps can be taken during this the intercessional period between this IGF and the next one around how to use things like the City Hub tools that we heard Deborah elaborating on, both the technical tools for interoperability, the trust framework mapping, the work on champion use cases in order to achieve the goals of the African free trade around lifting up the broader population and making sure that sovereignty is respected. So this is an ambitious goal and one that I know DG Abasoy, you took part in when we were in Addis Ababa a few weeks ago, discussing how these tools could be used. But it's an important question, right? How could we actually progress this work together? Then our audience will be chiming in. So some of them are already saying, champion use cases. But let me turn first to Dr. Jimson to see if you have any thoughts on next steps that we could take, concrete work we could do together.
Thank you very much, Gail. Well, we do know that if you cannot measure a process, you cannot really manage it. So there is need to constitute maybe a working group so that we could actually identify the gaps that we have across our sub-regions and regions, identify the champions with regard to parameters like the trust framework, with regard to whether the system is open source, to determine the interoperability criteria, and to ensure that, for example, the NetMundia plus 10 statement is really incorporated in what is being done. Talking about NetMundia plus 10, it's about bringing all the stakeholders, the private sector, along with the government, the technical community, the civil society, and even the youth around the table to discuss the benefits and the use cases and the end goal, so to build the trust. So I believe AFICTA, of course, as we have been doing, engaging with the AU, for example, with the UNECA, there are a number of African framework already in place. Can this gap really help us identify where we are? We have seen Nigeria talked about the maturity level, and but then as well about other African countries, there is desire that we can work together, But as we work together, we need to ensure that stakeholders are in the room so that we can have the optimal output at the end of the game. So going forward, I think our partnership can really come up in a working group to look at these parameters and to look at those standards to be sure that we're in sync going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jimson. So the multi-stakeholder participation, including the youth, calling that out is very important. Deborah, any additional comments to add on what we might do in the intersessional period?
Yes, two comments on my end. The first one, I think, talking about policy, it's very relevant to map the different legislation that underpin digital identity in the different countries. So when we talk about cross-border, it's a work that we have started, we're conducting with the collaboration of universities as well in City Hub. I think, just to give you an example, why that is important. A country is sovereign on deciding how the national identity, the rules applying to how the national identity ecosystem in a certain country for citizens and residents. So when an identity cross-border digitally, how do you know you can trust that digital form of identity? So that's trust. It's jargon, is level of assurance, but it's basically a very complicated word to say that. How do you know that that identity was properly given to the right person in the other country, and that actually that identity belongs to the rightful owner? So there's not been mismatch passing on to somebody else's. So it's really about how are the rules set up to make sure that that identity was digitalized. And these rules, believe it or not, are different in different countries. And if you don't trust whatever you receive in the digital form, then there's no value, right? You can have it digitalized, but then there's absolutely no usage for it. So I think it's very important that we do this work, and it's not just a research work of mapping the differences in rules. It's really about turning this into something actionable. So how can we transform these values enshrined and encoded in laws into something that can be used together with the digital identity that is passed? So how can I describe the process to obtain this digital identity so that the other country can decide if to trust it or not? So this is all tools that underpin the work of cross-border interoperability. So I think that that's a very important piece of work that needs to continue. And I would say more should be completed before the next IGF, so to show actually some concrete results. And together with this, POC, proof of concept. I absolutely agree with some of the comments. I think we need to start getting things done. So it shouldn't just be research and thinking and technology, but it should actually be implemented and tested in the field. So now Eero said something that I totally agree with. We can start small. We don't need to have a big bang. So we can actually take baby steps and have 2 or 3 countries get together, and CD would be I think most helpful in this concept of setting up a proof of concept and testing the technologies and the tools that we are developing to make sure that that this could work, or maybe to know what to improve, and from there scale globally this infrastructure.
Thank you, Deborah. I think that bias to action characterizes everyone on the panel, to do concrete work that is actionable, and to do so, I think, in this intersessional period where we're seeing the early work in Nigeria, we're seeing the work with Alficta and Benin, we're seeing the work in Norway and in Japan, right? There is this hands-on work that's already happening within jurisdictions and within regions, but continuing to progress that through these forums like Alficta and City Hub is critical. So we've got some good notes on the page, which I think people have had a chance to look at. So I'd like to jump to the second policy question and then turn to a couple of the questions that Stephanie's captured from the online audience. So for our next interactive topic, and I'm going to put on guard DJ Abasoy, as well as Dr. Kosi and Tor Alvik, on this next policy question. So how can policymakers leverage shared experiences of successful interoperable digital identity for African regional benefit? So there are these emerging use cases, there are these emerging policies and best practices. How can we put that to work for the African region? So I'll come first to Dr. Kosi to see if you have any additional comments to make on this point.
Thank you, moderator. ID is very important, but security of the data is very, very important, like than ID. We need to work very well in security issue. The second one is data center. Where will we put our data? Where do you have it? Is it in Africa? Is it outside Africa? It's important for us to have our data inside Africa. That is very important.
Thank you, Dr. Kosi. DJ Abasoy, anything to add to the importance of data security and preserving data within Africa?
I think it's important to note that we need to ensure that there's regional cooperation regarding cross-border interoperability. We need to ensure that the frameworks are developed and taken into consideration, like Rebecca had mentioned earlier, about the underlying identity laws in the country, and just developing one that's acceptable to all, for everyone to be able to start off. And I think that she also mentioned about the actionable steps. I think that's very important. So looking at countries that have sort of matured on the identity level, from Ghana, Rwanda, Nigeria, we need to ensure that we take those countries and then, run a pilot for cross-border interoperability, whilst we're looking at meeting the other country states at their level of readiness to see how we can help them to scale up. And they can also learn from Nigeria also to see how we've been able to achieve this, they can also learn from India with others to see how they can scale up. So what we've also done in Nigeria, outside of the EID card, which you're all aware of, is that we had recently launched the NIN authentication application, which allows for safeguarding of your digital identity, and also has the wallet component to it, where you're able to have all your digital IDs on one application. So you can then, and also allows for user consent sharing. So with all of this in place, there's so much to learn from Nigeria, and we're also willing to share that information and also champion the direction of this, because one needs to recognize that cross-border interoperability, it's a governance decision and not just a technical one. So it's very, very important that it's seen as a whole of government approach, and government owns this drive. But a lot of collaboration also has been done with World Bank on the ID4D part of things, in terms of advancing the cause of the NIN enrollment. So capacity building, getting the front-end partners to go to the local community level to sort of round up. So the president is giving us a mandate that by December, we must have everybody enrolled in the country. So we are like moving at light speed at the moment to get that done. So we anticipate 95% of the population should be enrolled by then. But what we're doing at the moment is to ensure that those that are enrolled are able to use their ID to access all the government services that they need to access. So from an African perspective, a lot of the state countries or country states are usually very protective of data. We like to own things, we like to keep it, so how do you sort of build an enabling trust across the region, that it means that you can still use this data for all of this, but you still have some level of control over that data, and this is where data sovereignty comes into play. Just to sort of round up, what we basically need is just political will, long-term regional commitment, peer learning mechanisms across board for us to be able to adopt that model. And I think that the public sector and private sector must continue to work together to be able to drive the adoption of the AFTA framework, the African Union framework, and a lot must continue to go in. So it's a continuous work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DG Abasoy. So there's a lot of ground covered between you and Dr. Kosi. So let me see if we have additional comments from Tor Alvik.
Thank you very much. It's very exciting to hear all the experience that comes from Africa. Also, for the last years, I've been involved in working with large-scale pilots leading up to the new ADAS regulation. I see this as quite a helpful tool when trying to explore both the governance side and also technical sides of different user stories. For instance, we have been working on digital driver's license, payments, education, and so on. And this combination of practical work and also policy making and governance analysis in regard of those user stories has been very helpful when we have been trying to understand the legislative side of the new regulations. So maybe that is something that also could be looked into, if that could be used also as a tool other places.
So user stories absolutely brings to life the technology, right, to make sure it's applicable.
It is the only way that you can make these things understandable. Talking about standards and cryptography, decision makers often have a very blank face after 2 minutes.
Right, absolutely. So, Nihira, if you have any comments to add, please, in one moment, I'm just kind of recap what I see on the screen, a few of the messages from the online audience around the data strategy for development, leveraging these shared experiences and fostering collaboration, and digital literacy, also important themes. So, any additional comments on your side, Fuji-san?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's quite exciting to hear about African and Norway experience for me. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very important. Not only focusing on technology, but focusing on the governance or trust framework, because in many cases, every country has their own regulation or rules, but in some cases, the rules or the regulation have to be changed by to have interoperability with other countries. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to collaborate with every country's government to achieve that. So yeah, it's in fact CD have relationship partnership with every country's government. So every of us have to have some good relationship with every government. These are my additional comments for me.
Yeah, so it's a lot to do, right? So what's already in place is not yet fit for purpose to achieve interoperability. So changes within existing rules and policies will be necessary to truly achieve the interoperability, whether that's regional in Africa or whether that's global context, I would assume. Very good. So a couple of questions coming from online. Stephanie, would you like to direct them to the,
yes,
to the audience?
Yes, I will. I think there's two, from those questions, because I know we don't have much time, there's actually two themes. One is actually linked to what we've just discussed. A question like, is it federated, is it centralized? And then the word of, the way you digitalize, is it leading to some kind of surveillance? So I think there's a question for the technical people here to explain, that this is not the case, as CD is not prescribing any model, as we said. And the second one is, it is very important because it's, I think there was comments made before, there's a question on how do we ensure that the digital divide is bridged when currently Africa has deep rural population and then escalating cost of internet and energy, while we are all looking into energy transition as well. So I would say there's two themes in the three questions.
Okay. So I think in the context of federated versus centralized ecosystems, I might start on that one myself, because as you said, as City Hub, we're not opinionated on the appropriate architecture for any individual country. And so each jurisdiction is going to apply their own values, their own rules, their own policies to whether they, what architecture they prefer. And some might lean towards centralized, some might lean towards federated, some might have centralized today and then, evolve towards something that's more decentralized. So I think it's an evolving approach. But I see Dr. Jimson has a comment to make on that point.
Yes, thank you, Gail. These are very good questions. Technically, I think federated database is ideal, and that's what we use in Nigeria. And through API, you can connect other databases. So even across borders, countries can keep their data locally, and then through API, you can share the specific data categories that have been agreed upon based on policy framework. Somebody also asked a question about affordability. Yes, we need to encourage the operators to be concerned about this. Government also need to give incentives, and also we need to increase the purchasing power of the people so that everybody can be incorporated in the digital age. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jimson. Any additional comments on federated versus centralized models? Okay, not hearing any. I do think that there may be comments on surveillance and the desire, and I think many jurisdictions, to avert surveillance of citizens using digital identity infrastructure. Would any of you like to comment on the risks of surveillance and how you might reflect on that challenge? Tor?
It is a very interesting topic. One we now are facing when we are trying to work with the digital wallets, which coming next. Those are by design very user-centric, so you share all your credentials directly between the user and the service provider, and where you want to use it. For us, that raises questions. That protects the citizens very well. But on the other side, you also need to tackle misuse and fraud. And how you can then build a model that takes both of these things into consideration is a topic I think needs quite a lot of discussion.
Please, Deborah.
One point on surveillance, because I saw some previous comments. Surveillance can come from both government and private sector. So both needs to be addressed and monitored, and especially in this digital identity field where we have both private and public sector involved, then makes room for reflection. So I think it's again, like I mentioned earlier, it's one property we want to maintain of the physical document when we move to the digital realm. And I would say that the digital identity crowd and City Hub is very much hard at work to make sure that we put safeguard in progress. But that this is where also engagement with civil society, privacy expert is absolutely important in this work.
Thank you so much. I'd like to hit that last questions on the digital divide, and perhaps some of our effective representatives might speak to that, because obviously one would need to have a mobile device, one would need to have Wi-Fi access, one would need broadband infrastructure to take advantage of digital identity interoperability. So there's a lot of foundation capabilities that would be important. Any comments on bridging the digital divide and what can and will be an ongoing challenge? DG Abasoy?
Thank you for that question. So regarding the digital divide, I think that can be easily bridged if you try and create a lot of awareness on digital literacy, because even as it stands, those that have mobile phones still are not 100% digitally trained. And they don't understand the implications of, of the digital identity. So I would say that digital identity is a brilliant concept. It does make life easier, but at the same time, you need to obviously safeguard the individual's rights, the citizen's rights. So we need to make sure that the laws enacted definitely safeguards all their rights. What we've done in Nigeria is to do a few things. The federal government is considering flooding the market with very affordable, basic mobile phones, so that it's extremely affordable and the average Nigerian that's unbanked is able to use this phone. Another thing we're doing with the enrollment drive this year is that we are opening accounts and wallets for all the people that are unbanked. So as we go out to enroll people, we are ensuring that we open wallets for them so that they can be they're able to participate in government intervention programs and not be excluded at all. So that would help the government a great deal to ensure financial inclusion and also to help to bridge the digital divide. So we're doing a lot of media awareness on digital literacy. And with the NIN authentication application, we want to ensure that people understand the value of having the digital wallet, so you're able to use this application. This is how you can protect your data yourself. So for you to log in, it is biometric enabled, so you have to obviously use your biometrics to log into the application.
Great.
Thank you.
So thank you so much to the panel for the rich discussion today. I know we're very much at time. So thank you for the thoughtful contributions. And we will be sharing the report from this event with the IGF staff. And there will be, I believe, a recording of this session as well to share with your colleagues. Thank you again.